In today's video, we'll be solving this elevator problem. The problem says that Fernanda is standing on a scale while riding an elevator. If the scale reads 720 newtons, while the elevator is accelerating upwards at 0.90 meters per second square, what is Fernanda's mass? They're given all these options. It's a good idea to pause the video here and have a crack at it. Here's a sketch of the problem in which we have Fernanda inside an elevator and the elevator is accelerating upwards. Now let's focus on Fernanda for a while. If I ask you the question, how many forces are acting on Fernanda? What would your answer be? Well, I would say that one of the forces has to be gravity. Gravity is pulling Fernanda downwards. And how do we find the value of gravitational force? For that, we have an equation. The equation is the force of gravity with which an object is pulled down equals mass of that object times g. What's g? Well, g is a constant whose value is 9.8 meters per second square. That means the force with which Fernanda is being pulled downwards is given as mass of Fernanda, which is m, times the constant g. Okay, great. So that's the force with which she is being pulled down. Alright, that's great. So mg is the force with which gravity is pulling down on Fernanda. But wait, Fernanda is moving with the elevator. In fact, she is accelerating upwards. That means there must be a force that's pushing Amanda up. In fact, that force has to be greater than the force of gravity. Otherwise, Fernanda would fall down, not go up. But who is applying that upwards force? If we zoom in into this image, we'll see that Fernanda is resting on a scale. It's this scale that's pushing Fernanda upwards. So if we call the force with which Fernanda is being pushed up by the scale as Fn, also known as the normal force, we have in total two forces acting on Fernanda. Fn pushing her up and mg pulling her down. Now we are ready to apply Newton's second law. What is Newton's second law? Newton's second law says the total force on any object is equal to the mass of the object times the acceleration of the object. In our case, the object is Fernanda. Now, what is the total force acting on Fernanda? Well, since there are two forces, Fn going up and mg going downwards, the total force would be the subtraction of those two. So I'll write F as Fn minus mg. That's the total force. And this has to equal m times a. Alright, a is given to us, m we are trying to find, g we already know, it's 9.8. Now how do we find Fn? Well, it's already given to us. This 720 Newton, the question says if the scale reads 720 newtons. That 720 newtons is the force with which the scale is pushing her up. So we can substitute 720 newtons here. So let's try and do all the substitutions. We would get 720 minus m times 9.8 equals m times acceleration, which is 0.9. Now we can rearrange this equation and write it as 720 equals m times 9.8 plus m times 0.9. We can combine both of these terms, and how much is that? That would be 720 equals 10.7 m. Now we can divide both sides by 10.7 to get rid of the 10.7 term. This and this goes away, and that turns out to be m equals 720 divided by 10.7, which is equal to 67.2 kilograms. So we can go back to our question and choose 67 as the correct option.